Jess and I just kicked out not one of our bosses, but two of our bosses to be here and film this unnamed segment for you guys.
And Taylor is not here because he couldn't find a paper bag to put over his head. So Billy Gill is here. So Billy, way to go, kicking out John and Dan from
I
the
can't
studio.
believe you guys did that.
I was so scared.
It was really awkward, actually.
Who did it? Who initiated it?
Well,
Of course.
I was
scared.
I was getting impatient, and I was like, I'm not afraid of them. I'm gonna knock on the window. And John kept like looking over at me, and I kind of like try to get his attention, but I was like doing like a
Wait,
really.
you knocked on the glass?
I did like a really like. I don't think they could hear it though.
No,
I think,
you can't.
Yeah, it sounds.
Sometimes I'm in there and I'm trying to like get like attention of this room, and I'm like waving
Yeah,
and
they
banging
were.
and can't hear anything.
It was so serious of a conversation. Dan took his hat off. And that's when Mike Fuentes had the bright idea. Why don't you guys put on the studio lights as like a, hey,
Brilliant.
we're getting ready to record. So then we did that, and they were like, whoa, what's going on? And then looked up, and I was like, I did like I pointed at me, point at you, point at like, we got to, like, and then they went out and they were like, oh, John was like, I'm so sorry. You should have told me you were using the studio. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
I'm sorry for interrupting your
Now
very
she's doing
important meeting,
impressions,
sir.
Lucy.
Yeah, and I was hiding in the back the whole time.
Can I just really quick before you do like college stuff, because I don't want to waste you to have limited time today. So I have a grid of death punishment that's dressed like John Skipper, and I almost did it on Halloween, but my dogs ate my glasses,
No.
so I couldn't do it.
And that's why you didn't have a costume?
And then he showed up, and I had never been happier that my dogs ate my glasses, because I could have been dressed as him, and he just surprise showed up, and I would have been him.
Nothing more rattling than when he surprise shows up. Like today, I got sent to the penalty box after my against the spread picking of Clemson, which we'll get to.
Not fair.
And John is like, so did you pick Clemson? And I was like, what? You're here? It was very jarring.
He scares me a little, but not in a bad way. And just, I'm new here. And
If it were up
you're
to
in
you,
Hi, I'm
charge.
Lucy.
if it were up to you, how long would you have been waiting?
I was prepared to move in.
Yeah.
My impatience.
I
is
admire
above
that.
all.
As soon as we came in and we saw that they were in there, we're like, this might be a while. And she's like, I'm giving them 5 minutes, and then that's my studio. We're like, okay.
Thank God. That's why this segment works, though. If it were me, we would never record. We would just be here.
I didn't want to waste Billy Gill's time. It's finite.
Yeah.
And we only have 12 minutes. Now 10 minutes to
Oops.
cover.
I wasted your time.
No,
sorry.
it's okay. It's the Billy Gill effect. So Taylor's not here today.
He's embarrassed.
North Carolina lost to Georgia Tech. He called it.
Should be.
To his credit.
Yeah.
But Lucy, what happened last weekend? We'll do like 5 minutes of that and then 5 minutes previewing what is about to be one of the best weekends of the college football schedule year.
The big thing from last weekend was Kansas beating Oklahoma. I did not see this one coming, but I wasn't necessarily shocked by it. Kansas and Jason Bean, great name as we talked
Jason
about.
Bean!
Jason Bean almost beat Oklahoma 2 years ago, and you just kind of felt like Kansas was going to fumble this one. They didn't. Outside of that, not a ton of upsets, which makes me really excited for the next few weeks because it means it's coming. The time is here. Things will correct itself.
It was Kansas's first regular season win over a top 10 opponent since 1995. Lucy,
insane.
before
I was not alive.
before we were born, wink, kind of, right around the time I was born, if we're being honest. Doesn't matter. I'm not one of those people who's afraid of my age. I don't know why I'm doing this. Anyways, you're right. Jason Bean, it looked like at the end of the game, like Kansas didn't have the juice. Like he threw a pick, I think, to go up and like 3 minutes left. And then they got the ball back, made Oklahoma go 3 and out, and they scored on a game-winning like 80-yard drive. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful thing.
One of the weirdest parts of this game is we're now at a spot where Oklahoma State controls its own destiny to the Big 12 championship
Like
game.
how?
Iowa State's in competition for the Big 12 championship game. I don't know what is going on
There's
there.
a 5-way tie. It's crazy. The Big 12 has really like shocked me when there's been some really big stinker results, like especially Oklahoma State, and now they've got a running back who is putting up numbers, and we're gonna see him play this weekend in what is the last of the Bedlam series of the Big 12 era.
Might be there, might not. This weekend, once Kansas beat Oklahoma and Oklahoma had the loss or the win over Texas beat Alabama, I went and found the funniest transitive property win. South Alabama over Alabama.
I
They beat
love
Oklahoma
that.
State 33-7.
I love the transitive property in college football. It is so stupid, and it is college football playoff committee ranking season. The first ranking came out on Tuesday. We both are not super into dissecting the rankings this early in the season, which I have found I appreciate. I appreciate that we're not dedicating 12 minutes to that, Lucy.
This is the initial set. Everything will correct itself. Teams will win. Teams will lose. They will figure it out. I'm not going to lose my mind. I think we all think Ohio State isn't the best team in the country, but we get why we're there. It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, Ohio State #1 was kind of surprising. Penn State at 11, kind of surprising. But then, like, you kind of like work your reasoning backwards. You're like, all right, well, if Penn State's 11, then it justifies them putting Ohio State first. But if Washington's 5 and Oregon's 6, how come they're not higher? Because they have the best win. But you know, you could put your brain in a pretzel trying to do all of it. But it's October, so we won't.
Penn State should never be ranked above 17 until they've beaten Ohio State or Michigan. I can't trust them over that. They are always the 17th best team in the country to me, and I think that's perfect.
I love that about you. We are the same.
You really are.
Brian Ferentz.
Yeah, big week for me.
Give me your like little minute spiel on how it feels right now to be an Iowa fan.
It's a weird time because something about this firing is watch Kirk Ferentz's press conference this week about it. They went over his head to make this decision. Kirk obviously was not going to fire his kid. That's kind of why we were in this position in the first place. The interim athletic director went over Kirk Ferentz's head and fired Brian, and like as a courtesy, which she didn't say this, but we know as a courtesy, he's there through the rest of the season. Watch Kirk Ferentz's press conference. He talked about getting hit by a truck, so I don't think he's going to be back next year.
Oof.
He doesn't seem very optimistic.
Is there like a coup happening right now in Iowa athletics?
I would say somewhat. The last athletic director there, pretty much Kirk Ferentz had his way with him the entirety of his tenure. So Iowa fans are collectively really excited about this new athletic director. We hope she gets the full-time job, get rid of that interim title. She's amazing. Someone needed to do this, but Kirk's very hurt, very upset by the fact that this happened in the middle of the season. It's going to be an interesting offseason for Iowa football, for sure.
Was she like, this is going to make me so popular?
She definitely lost the most powerful man on campus's support, but the rest of the state, like I would wear a Beth Gates t-shirt right now if I could.
Well, thank you, Beth. Thank you, Beth. That's what we do here on the LeBatard Show.
I love you, Beth.
What else? You were at the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. What was the largest cocktail you saw?
There were like no cocktails anywhere. It was so disappointing because I was like, the existence of the world's largest outdoor cocktail party implies the existence of the world's largest cocktail.
No cocktail?
Couldn't find any.
I'm picturing people walking around with like, I don't think you've ever been to the South Beach Food and Wine Festival down here, but people walk around with like these huge, Billy's showing us the 5-minute card, a taste of your own medicine, Lucy. People walk around with like these giant like wine cup things around their necks, like necklaces, and like fill it up at the wine festival. I'm picturing people in Jacksonville with like a martini glass and they just go and fill it up with cocktail mixers. But I guess that's not the case. That's a disappointment.
That's what I thought. It was a very beer heavy day. We were given some Jello shots, which was nice, but cocktails, didn't find them.
That's upsetting.
I don't know what that was about.
Georgia also beat Florida.
Yeah.
Shocker.
They're good at doing that.
They're very good at that.
Very good at that.
There was a big result for Louisville this weekend, beating Duke, blanking them 23-0.
Crazy.
Now Louisville's got a pretty quality win, so that's something that is good for them because we talked about their schedule not being like the most difficult of the ACC schedule, so they have to win all their games. And other than losing to Pitt, they've won a lot of games this year that will propel them in the rankings.
Another weird conference like finale sort of deal. We're probably going to have a Louisville, Florida State, ACC title game. Hell, we could throw Virginia Tech in there potentially.
Georgia Tech, fourth in the ACC.
Very weird conference. It's very weird.
The Big Ten West has a 4-way tie. The Big 12's got a big tie at the top now that Oklahoma's lost. The ACC, if you look up the standings, you're going to be like, huh? It's just a very weird season so far in terms of like a few marquee names missing and a lot of like we were saying, transitive property wins and losses that make things very confusing. The weekend upcoming, Lucy, you're going to be potentially in Oklahoma, potentially in Alabama, but this is probably one of the better college football weekends of the season in terms of games that will matter in regards to conference championships and the college football playoffs.
Yeah. Bama LSU is really interesting. I don't think this game is as close as Vegas thinks it is. -3 for Alabama seems kind of crazy to me. Alabama, Jalen Milroe is starting to hit a stride. He's playing a lot better. He doesn't look like Jalen Milroe in September. The offensive line still has some issues. LSU's defense is bad. This is like a revenge game because Brian Kelly beat Alabama last season.
And Tommy Rees now is the offensive. Tommy Rees, Brian Kelly's former quarterback. Back when I was in school, and then former offensive coordinator. So these are two coaches that know each other's tendencies very, very well, playing against one another. And Alabama right now, if you kind of like wrote them off after they lost to Texas,
I did a little bit.
I think a lot of people did because they were playing uncharacteristically against South Florida and against Texas even, and they are still right up in there in terms of where they are in the SEC West, and so this is a game that really matters for them, and if they win it, they're going to be a favorite for moving into the playoff.
Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, last bedlam. That's really sad. I didn't even realize that till a few days ago. That is a great rivalry that is ending, and I didn't realize it until all this weird stuff with the Big 12 happened, how much of a stake it has on the playoff, on the Big 12 championship. Oklahoma loses, they're out. Oklahoma State wins. They pretty much control their destiny of the Big 12 championship. They don't have a super tough schedule remaining. There's going to be a lot of bad blood in Stillwater this weekend.
Yeah, Washington and USC is a game that after USC lost to Notre Dame and Utah, I kind of wrote that off, but Washington has struggled the last few weeks, played a little bit closer to Stanford than you'd expect, and then, of course, the Arizona State game 2 weeks ago. I think the committee has kind of dinged them for that, so they not only need to win, but I think they need to put up style points for the rest of the season. And USC, they have not thrown in the towel and given up. They had a really close call against Cal, but there's Caleb Williams is still capable of doing Caleb Williams things
Unless he sits out.
and yeah, well, he's
not going
to do that. So that's another game to watch this weekend. And there is an exciting, I don't know if it will be exciting at the end of the game, Missouri-Georgia matchup, which is now a top 15 matchup based off the college football playoff rankings.
That feels weird to say. I also think this is a course-correct game. I think we're going to have another Kirby Smart just kick the crap out of somebody, because there was no one happier in the entire world when those rankings came out than Kirby Smart being like, everybody hates us.
We have adversity.
They're doubting all of us.
We're
They think
only
you suck.
the number 2 team in the country.
Nobody
This
believes in them.
Bulletin board. Put
He
it on
is
the bulletin board.
thrilled. So I think Georgia wins big. I think Missouri is good, but we're starting to see what happens every single year in college football, where you hit November and everything starts to separate. The top, it's very obvious who is up there, and then it just becomes a whole lot of middle after that. And I think Missouri is top of the middle.
No matter what happens this weekend, I'm excited to hear what Tyler from Spartanburg thinks about it.
I'm so excited. I can't wait. Please bet the Iowa under. Stugotz is going to be there. That's going to be a gross, nasty game.
What is it? Right now it's
A little
29?
high. 30 and a half.
Oh, 30 and a half.
30 and a half.
We looked it up. There was a Cubs game at Wrigley Field this year that had more points than we think will be in this game.
Absolutely. That's